Hey seniors, welcome to day 2 of comparing representations of data. We're going to keep doing this until it becomes really strong. So, in the top left-hand corner of your paper, go ahead and draw your line. Go ahead and write 2 representations of data. Don't worry about this yet, I'm going to tell you what to write. So when I'm comparing rate of change, which means slope, and y-intercept, which means initial value, I need to make sure that both forms of data are in the same form. And the easiest way, I think, to compare them is if they're both in equations. So if I'm given a graph and an equation, just say y equals 2x minus 5, I want to turn this graph into an equation by finding the slope and the y-intercept because it's easier to compare once we do that. And you'll see data in all kinds of different forms. Graphs, tables, coordinates, equations. It all means the same thing. So let's do an example. Please, 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 please don't write this. I'm going to tell you what to write. All right, so the equation y equals 5x plus 30, negative 5x plus 30, represents the number of newspapers remaining after hours at a newspaper kiosk, which is like a newspaper stand. The table below shows the relationship between the number of newspapers remaining after hours at a convenience store. So my table is showing a convenience store. Which of the following statements correctly compares the 2 newspaper vendors? Before I can even get into my answer choices, I need to get these 2 different representations into the same form. Since my kiosk is already in the form of an equation, I need to turn my convenience relationship into a equation as well. So what I need to do is find the slope and the y-intercept of the table. And of course the way I do that is change in y over change in x. So I'm going to have 25 minus 30 over 2 minus 1. 25 minus 30 will leave me with negative 5. 2 minus 1 will leave me with 1. So I have a slope here, if I break this down, of m equals negative 5. Now I need to just go ahead and figure out what my y-intercept is. Since I know I have a slope of negative 5, I need to figure out where x is 0. Because wherever x is 0, the value of y is my y-intercept. And again, all I'm doing is I'm just working backwards. If I know that the number is decreasing by 5 every time I go down, if I'm working back from 30, I know that where x is 0, y will be 35, because that fits in with my slope, which is decreasing by 5 every single time. So my equation for my convenience store is y equals negative 5x plus 35. Make sure you have both of these equations written down. Make sure that you have equations literally sitting side by side to each other so you can compare them. Now let's go ahead and talk about our answer choices. Again, we want to use process of elimination to figure out which one is right and which one is wrong. So A, the kiosk and the convenience store start with the same number of newspapers but sell a different number of newspapers each hour. Okay, so if they start with the same number of newspapers, that would mean that their initial value or their y-intercept would be the same. But if I look at these 2 equations, I see that for the kiosk, I have an initial value of 30. And for the store, I have an initial value of 35. So A cannot be true because that is not a true statement. All right, B. The convenience store starts with more newspapers than the kiosk, but they sell the same amount each hour. So what that means is that their initial value would be different, but their slope would be the same. Let's go ahead and look at our equation and see if that's true. The convenience store, which is my second equation, starts with more newspapers than the kiosk. That is true because 35 is larger than 30. So the store starts out with 35 newspapers while the kiosk starts out with 30. But they sell the same amount each hour. And since our slopes are the same here, that means that our rate of change is the same, which means they are selling the same number of newspapers each hour. So B is going to be my answer choice. Cool. Again, you want to use process of elimination. Read through each option until you come across one that you think is true. Let's do the second one. All right, which of the following tables has the same y-intercept as the equation y equals negative 3x plus 8? Now, what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and find the slope and the y-intercept of each one of these tables so I can figure out which one has the same y-intercept. But if I look at my answer choices here, there's one that I can already eliminate based on its values. Because I'm looking for where x equals 0, y equals 8. I can eliminate answer choice A because it's x and y, where x is 0, y is 0. That's not what I'm looking for. That won't be the y-intercept that we want. So let's move on to B. Again, the best way to figure this out is just to write an equation for each one of these tables and see which one is which. So if I find change in y over change in x, I have 4 minus 5 over negative 4 minus negative 7. 4 minus 5 is going to leave me with negative 1. And negative 4 minus negative 7 is going to leave me with, if I keep change, will leave me with a positive 3. So this slope has an increase of negative 1 over 3 each time. Let's go ahead and find the slope of C. Answer choice C. All right, so again, I want to find change in y over change in x. All right, so what I want is I'll have 3 minus 1 over negative 2 minus negative 4. 3 minus 1 will leave me with 2. And negative 2 minus negative 4, if I keep change, will leave me with 2. That is going to leave me with a slope of 1. It's going to leave me with a slope of 1. Now, I can already tell that C will not be my choice because if I'm just working backwards each time, where x is 0, y will equal 5. And that's not the y-intercept that we're looking for. So that's going to leave me with answer choice D. If I find the difference, again, in my y values, it's going to be with 5 minus 11 over 1 minus negative 1. 5 minus 11 will leave me with negative 6. Oops, let me write that so we can see it a little bit nicer. Negative 6 over 2. It's because if I keep change. Negative 6 divided by 2 will leave me with negative 3. So this slope, D has a slope of negative 3. Now, if I work backwards and create my table, again, we're working with answer choice D here. My x and my y values, I have negative 1 and 11. I want to figure out where x is 0. And if I know that it's increasing by, if it's decreasing by 3 every time, whoops, 1 is actually 5. If it's decreasing by 3 every time, where x is 0, y will be 8. So answer choice D is the one that we want because this y-intercept will be the same. And that's what you have to do whenever you're given a bunch of tables is figure out your slope and then go from there. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Let's go ahead and practice.